This is a thoroughly disgusting, deeply impressive magazine, edited and published by Steve Bissett. And there are things in here that will unsettle you, and that's what art should do. Art should knock you in the head. Art should never make you complacent. Art is supposed to alarm you. That's why all the televangelists want it censored, because it makes people think. It makes them say, wait a minute, things may not be the way we were told. And they want to re-examine. True artists break apart the social structure daily. They recreate the dream time. They hold the mirror up to reality, and they turn it slightly to give us a new view of ourselves. Only in this way are we enriched. Only in this way do we learn the lessons of the past and have some hope for controlling our destiny for the future.
He's really, he's shameless in intellectual argument. He's absolutely without character, a moral foundation, or even intellectual substance.
Okay, so welcome back to Getting Lit. It's been a while between episodes because I've been on vacation in the US, escaping the Melbourne winter for a lovely Texas, Florida summer, which is nice. But last time we did Blood Meridian, and since then, young Cormac McCarthy has died, so RIP. But this episode, we're looking at another great American writer, one of my favorites, actually, Harlan Ellison. And I'm kind of continuing my tradition of getting straight guys on to talk about like classic science fiction. I have Glen Rockney here from Rare Candy. Welcome, Glen.
Oh, man, happy to be here. Super excited. Love books, love talking authors, love reading new stuff, which you put me on. I've never read any Ellison before this, but now I've ordered a couple of the short story collections, which are not cheap, by the way.
No, all right. Yeah. The thing when we were organizing this, it was kind of hard for me to choose what book to do. So I ended up just choosing different short stories because all the different short stories are kind of collected in different places, and all the greats, like the ones that I think are really great, are never collected together. Like I was actually searching when we agreed on this. I was like, okay, so I Have No Mouth is there, and in this one, and so is Paingod, but then A Boy and His Dog is not in there. And I was just like juggling all these different, and in the end, I was just like, I'm just going to get PDFs and send them to him, and we'll just talk about these short stories individually. So yeah, I'm glad you're buying the collections.
Yeah, I have you can kind of see my bookshelf right behind me. I'm one of those. Jack has the same thing. Has the same take on it. I think is more so like I almost like for the doomsday that I think is coming. Like I just want to have a bunch of books, and I read them. Like I do go through them and all that. But I want to have books and DVDs. PDFs are. It was very useful that you gave them to me. But I had to train myself how to read PDFs. Like I've always been like, then I'm like, I can see my tabs in the background. I'm like, oh no, it's not good.
Man, yeah, you do have to train yourself. Like they were mercifully short, the short stories though, because if it was any longer, like I think even A Boy and His Dog, which is a very readable novella, I was just like, oh, just I need pages to turn, man.
It's especially because it was the structuring of it was like a newspaper column, like where. Like you had to go and you're like, I'm going down. You're like, oh, no, I got to go to the right here to come up here. But it's riding a bike. You get it after a while.
Yeah. I'm a big physical books person too. Like, yeah, I share that thing with Jack. The thing, have you ever read, speaking of science fiction, A Canticle for Leibowitz?
No.
It's really good. You would actually really like it. It's sort of like this post-apocalyptic story where this Catholic monastery has like collected all the knowledge and is like keep vouchsafing it while like the world burns. It's really cool. Like, and I feel like that's what you're doing when you buy physical books and like keep them in your. So we've got our little like Canticle for Leibowitz monastery going on here.
Yeah, and like I turn into a woman. Like I don't care what it costs. like most of the time. I mean, one of the Harlan Ellison collections was like $300. Yeah, I didn't click on one. But like I saw one that was like $30, and I was like, yeah, you know what? Like to me, it's like that is. It's not a appreciating investment. I don't plan on reselling them. I'm not into like editions or anything. As long as I want the right cover, I want it to look good. I have to look at it on my bookshelf. I want the right cover. I don't want those dumb like Easter colored Kurt Vonnegut new books like that you see in the store.
With the pastel infographics you see on Instagram.
I know it's like one of those like sexual assault training things. Like and you have to make it work on the computer. like Kurt is rolling in wherever he's laying now. Like, it's horrible, but yeah, no, exactly. But as long as it's got the cover I like, I'm a big thrift books fan. Thrift books is like the best thing, like I think, to happen to online shopping in quite some time. They give you like free books after a while, and it's just nice because when I'm reading something, and for when I do the reading aspect of our show, it's like then somebody's like, "Hey, have you heard of this?" Just like what you just did right now. I'm probably going to get that book after we're done.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, I'm probably going to do that. I'm probably going to do it. But I love just being able to be like, okay, I'm going to get that. And I do a recycle bookstore trip probably once every couple months, just to see what they have. I just love it.
Oh, this is something I realized just, a couple of weeks ago when I was over there, is that even in really small towns in America, you will find the greatest shit. Like, I don't think you guys realize how lucky you are, like, because you go to thrift shops here and yeah, you can find some good stuff. You got to go digging though. But I was in fucking Denton in Texas and went to this recycle bookshop. And I was just assaulted with like amazing shit that like really niche shit that I know about and have never been able to find. And I was like, damn, I wish I had more baggage allowance because I would just take all of this stuff over to Australia. So
always when you're flying. Well, my wife, California is a huge state, so we'll drive up and down the coast. We'll go to Santa Barbara and all that. And like we drive in, we're like, we got a mid-sized sedan. We're stuffing it.
You got the U-Haul on the back.
Oh yeah, a little trailer, yeah, and everything. Like I'll do all that stuff. Like we'll buy alcohol, like all the artisan little alcohol, like gifts for her parents, little dishes that are dish towels her mom would like and stuff, and then a bunch of books, like just books and books and books. I'm like, I'll get to these one day. I'll get one day. And I'm in content mode, so it's like essentially most of the things I read are going to be something I'm talking about. So it's like there's always that added incentive. So.
Yeah, that's what happens when you have a podcast too, because like it's funny because it's like I am reading for pleasure, but I'm kind of not as well. Like I am reading exactly what I want to read, but it is, but it doesn't feel like a job, It is like So yeah, your podcast, Rare Candy, one of my favorites. I think actually in my rotation of podcasts, I was thinking about this today when I woke up from the jet lag at 3 a.m. That I think yours is probably the longest one I've had in my rotation, like continuously. And I can't even remember why I started listening, but I think maybe, a mutual or was a guest or something. And it's just been really great to see how you've evolved from, how would you define where the podcast sort of started and where it is now? Like,
I'm just a curious person. So essentially like I was one of those people like that. I've always felt like one of those weird like trash hoarding people where like I go around and I had like an empty shopping cart and like a little tattered jacket when I started the podcast. I was one of those. I was mainly a sports guy, but we're coming over to Twitter, and Sai's been my best friend since 8th grade. And we had constantly like we would either be talking to each other all the time or he would be off like walking barefoot somewhere with no cell phone for like a year. and then like all of a sudden we'd somehow through some weird Google Gmail chat, like phone number, I would get this weird call. Just a weird number would pop up and I'd answer and he'd go, "What's up, dude?" Like, I'd be like, what? Like, that started happening right around 2019. And I remember I was just telling the story on Rare Candy. It hasn't come out yet, but I'll say it for this one as well because it involves a book. I remember working this job, this really boring job, assignment that I was on, and it was just basically like safeguarding like a running trail because trees were falling down in the forest. Eucalyptus trees. You guys know a little thing about that over there. They're not native to California, so like they're here, but they're not native, and they as you know, they burn. Like so they're in the drought, and this is like 2019. And so I'm just kind of bored there. I'm listening to podcasts, talking to Sai a lot. And I'm looking, my car's parked on the trail where I would just sort of go to my post, and I look in the back and I'm talking to Sai. I'm like looking, and I have this book that my coworker gave me because he's like, "You look smart," or I'm white. So that was what he came from with. And it was the book he handed to me. He goes, "I didn't really like this, but I think you would like it because it's really like deep," is what he said. It was Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. Terrible. By the way, it's the terrible, evil, sick man book. But it was in the back seat of my car, and I just remember like seeing that while talking to Sai, and we were talking about like, hey, it'd be fun to like do a podcast. Like it'd be really fun to do that. And at that time, we were kind of like, just like Bernie guys, but not really super political. Like I didn't know like state senators. I didn't know all the weird leftist journalists. I didn't know any of those people, but I was just like, oh, that guy seems cool. And then, the pandemic hit, and then all of a sudden we had started a week before, and it felt like, well, we're meant to like cover this because we're weird. We're like weird health guys. And like, I think we're meant to cover this. And for like 50 straight episodes, we had like no listeners, but it was just so fun. Like I was off work for 8 weeks. He didn't work for like a year during the pandemic, and we were just like going and going and going. And then after a while, like it's just, you learn more, you read more, you see more things happen. I mean, I think those years were like dog years in terms of events that happened, or at least what was relayed to us. And I was just like, man, this is what we want to do. And it's like, it's all been organic. There's no Peter Thiel money, man. Like it's all organic. If he wants to just fund what we do now, I won't say no, but no, it's all it's just an organic trajectory. And now we're just talking about, whatever we want to do. And people want to come on the show. It's kind of fun, it's really fun.
I'm glad you laid out the timeline like that, because like, I didn't know that I feel like I was listening to you guys way before the pandemic, like, but it was like a week before it. Wow. Like, so yeah. And you guys throughout the pandemic were like, complete relief to me as someone in Melbourne, the most lockdown city in the world. I felt like I was going insane. And it was just good to have like another perspective that wasn't completely psyoped into the COVID thing. Obviously some other podcasters help with that, like Jack and stuff, but it was just good to have like,
yeah, exactly.
I just was like, it's really hard to convey if you weren't here. But I mean, obviously you guys had a similar thing, but it was nowhere near as bad as it was here. But just, it wasn't just the policies and the rules and stuff like that. It's also the atmosphere of like, when you're kind of thinking about, if I was a German in 1939, like, yeah, and it's like many 90% of people would slap that swastika on.
It was disheartening just seeing the compliance, just the compliance, and not even weighing options, not even like the should I, no, it was just like, all right. And like, especially in California, where there were a lot of mandates, there were a lot of this and that, but like there were opportunities to not do that. And people were so scared of even just being criticized for a little bit. They were so scared of just like sticking out like a sore thumb, of swimming upstream a little bit. And they were so scared. And, during during COVID, there weren't, I hate even saying during the pandemic, like I hate saying it, but I guess that's what it is. But the
scamdemic.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. And I never know what I can say on what show. Like, like Agitators on YouTube now. Next time I go on Agitator, I have to like maybe dial it back a little bit. But the way that I saw people going on, and I was just like, you know what? I've always been a little bit different, like just a little bit. I was never like a complete like rebel, but I was always kind of like, I always took odd paths to get to where I was. And I'm like, I know I'm right about this. My wife is extremely based in red pilled. So I didn't have the weird like marriage that some people have where like, masked, triple masked, boosted wife and like, husband that disagrees. I didn't have any of that. My parents are definitely like, libs and stuff, but I had my best friend Cy, and like, I just whatever. Like I was like, my parents were never going to disown me. They didn't. So like, we have a very good relationship. My wife is stuck with me forever. And we even got closer during that time. Just knowing that we were handling this correctly. And then Cy and I, like our friendship got even better. So I was just like, well, no matter what happens, I have those people. So like, I'm very, very sympathetic to the people who just didn't have anybody. It's really sad, which I know in Australia was a big thing. Like there was we interviewed a guy who had to FaceTime his friend every day to make sure he didn't kill himself.
Yeah, it was many such cases.
Yeah, it was really his friend was struggling before that with depression. So
yeah. I knew people that like didn't even get to say goodbye to their grandparents and stuff that were dying.
That was the one thing that happened to me too. Like was my own family. My grandma got moved to. My grandma was at. I was one of the few. There was a bunch of grandkids. I was one of the few ones that actually like throughout her life would actually drive up the 2 hours to go see her. My cousins all live where I live and stuff. And, I would drive up and go see her and stuff. And we had a very good relationship. When she got sick, she was in a nursing or one of those homes or something. And kind of wish they never put her in that, but she wanted to. She wanted to be in a home, and but then they had the vaccine mandate when that first came in, and I had been seeing her, and then my parents and all these stuff were kind of like, so you're not going to get the shot for that? I was like, no, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to. I'll call her. It's just, and she didn't really give me any grief about it either. But then she got sick there with uterine cancer, while she was in the home. Pretty fast after she moved into that home. And I assume she had always been sick, but she was declining fast, and she got moved to in-home hospice at my aunt's house. So I'm thinking, okay, great, I can go say bye to her at least. No,
what?
I wasn't allowed to. I wasn't allowed to go to in-home hospice by my own. It's my aunt. This is not my parents, but my aunt was just basically my dad said, I'm not sure it's a good idea if you come. It's not my decision, but he kind of said that, and I'm kind of the writing on the wall was I was the only one who didn't get the shot, and I'm thinking, well, she's dying of uterine cancer, and they're like, yeah, but you could give her COVID. I'm like, well, yeah, I won't. I'm not going to even get into that argument, but she's dying. She's already made her peace. She has a week left on Earth, and that was sad. It was just a really sad thing, and it's kind of just never come up again, ever again, that happened, I was just that happened way worse to so many other people too, just so many people. And it's I always forgive, because that eventually helps you as the forgiver. You need to be able to do that, because you don't want to hold on to that stuff forever. I don't forget though. I don't forget.
Me neither. Nothing like that kind of happened with me. So I'm very lucky. I'm very sorry that happened to you, Glenn. But, I'm at a point, I'm only really talking about this because I'm talking to you, and your podcast was really sort of helpful to me throughout the pandemic, and I'm kind of sick of talking about it. But it's one of those things where yeah, I'm sick of talking about it, but I'm never going to forget those years ever.
Getting mad about it. That's the thing. You're sick of the emotions that it brings up. And that because I have the same thing. We don't cover it nearly as much as we used to. We bring it up, but we don't here and there. And we just talk to our friend Alex. That's about it. When we talk about it, but that's carefully curated. We want to move on to other things and allow people to not fall for this stuff again. That's our mission statement. Is men's health, and don't fall for this type of bullshit again. Because people will do it again. Nobody. People are waking up. It's nice, but when it's just when they change the flavor and the seasoning of the next one, couple few buzzwords get thrown in there, we'll fall for it. So.
They tried it early on too with the monkeypox stuff. I think that was that was a flop.
It did flop. Well, they couldn't. They were it affects gay men, but we don't really want to tell them not to do anything. And And for the record, I didn't support them telling gay men to stop doing things, because I thought it was fake. I thought it was completely fake. So I was like, no, I don't want another lockdown just because of gay guys. I don't want to tell gay guys stop doing it, and then all of a sudden schools shut down right after that because there's a gay kid in class or something. No.
Yeah, gay guys have a right to their piss orgies, Glenn.
I've always said, I just close the door.
Put a tarp down.
I don't need to know about it. I don't wish to have an educational program about what happens, but you know what?
I'm wearing yellow while I'm saying this.
Homer Simpson yellow. Yeah.
But now I really love how you're, with your premium feed, which I subscribe to, and you should as well. So I'm going to put that in the show notes. You do Gain of Fiction Lab, which it's a hilarious name. I love it. But it's also really good. It's one of the only decent, including this one, books podcast, because I don't know, it just seems more authentic and more book clubby than I really hate when writers, even though I am a writer and I do a book club kind of, I really hate when it's clearly not just an authentic response to a book and just an organic kind of conversation about it. It's always choosing the book very judiciously, and it's it always seems very careerist. But you guys just let it all hang out and talk about books in a really I guess uncomplicated, not uncomplicated, but just sort of your reactions are your reactions, and that's that, right? Like,
yeah. And I don't know prose. Like, I don't know any of that type of stuff. I kind of want to know, but also I'm okay being a little naive to it, because I have friends with a lot of, I find writers to be so fascinating. Like, I find them, I would add, just to promote another podcast. This podcast is phenomenal for literature. I really enjoy Gain of Fiction, and then Art of Darkness pod with Brad Kelly and Kevin Kautzman. They're not just literature; they're mostly art, but they do focus on a lot of authors. And they don't really necessarily talk about books, like a single book. They talk about an author and like why their darkness to them, like why it helped, where it shows up in their art, why it's there. And they do like 4-hour episodes on like Joseph Conrad and stuff. That stuff really helps me, you know what I mean? That stuff helps. I mind them for like stuff sometimes, because they'll be covering the author and I'll be covering like a book. But I love writers, but it's weird. Like, I've had some people sign up, and like you see on Substack, you'll see like the email, like so and so subscribe to your feed, and it'll be like so and so PhD at this university email.com, and I'm like, ugh. Like, I'm like, oh shit, he's not gonna want to hear it. And like, then that person will hit me up and they'll go, it's so nice to like not have it from a writer's perspective. And I'm like, because they're just like, because like, honestly, like, I think he writes, I didn't pry too much, but I think he writes, and he's like, I like to know how readers react to things, because I just, it doesn't make me want to write. I don't have the writing bug. I can a little bit, but it doesn't come naturally to me. I love to read. It makes me want to read more. So I just want to read. I want to read everything. And it's really fun. And so many people, and I do want to get you on, because I want to do Thomas Ditch with you sometime.
Are you serious? I was going to suggest that. Which one?
Well, I have the sorts. So you bought something, right? Like a recently?
334 in Denton, the recycle books.
Fun to do would be that. And then I have this short story collection called Fun with Your New Head.
Okay.
And so I'll be referencing this throughout the show, that MindWeb's radio drama thing where they do short stories. I heard this one called The Descent from Thomas Ditch, and it was the most like chilling, gross, but not even gross, but just like kind of just shake you to your core story. And I just was obsessed. And Michael Hansen, who does the stories, always says what collection it's from. So I just went and bought this like weird school library like looking book. And I would love to combine the two for an episode. It doesn't have to be
let's do it.
Anything. I don't care. It doesn't matter. I just like, it'd be fun to do. I would love to do Thomas Ditch, because I know he's like a crazy gay guy. So
yeah, I love crazy gay guys.
Like, he looked like he had like white supremacist tattoos almost. I don't think he does, but like it looks like he does. Yeah.
Oh no, that was like a gay aesthetic in like the 80s and 90s. Like, it was like,
yeah.
No, but like kind of, playing with the Nazi imagery. Like there's an orgy scene in Larry Kramer's Faggots where they're basically all dressed in like Nazi regalia and like fisting each other in boots and stuff. It's like really insane.
So I want to know more about him eventually. So I would like to do that eventually. I mean, probably like a season 2 thing, but I would love to do that, or we could do it for this show. I have no problem too. For one, I really want to like the short story that I listened to from him was so good. And the whole idea of the pod, that pod is for me, but I'm glad people enjoy it. Like that's for me. I was going to like kind of make people sit through it for a while. And then the first one we did was Jurassic Park. And I love Michael Crichton. He's like I just love him. He's not my favorite author, but I love him. He's like my favorite person to ever write books. And it comes out in his novels as well. The stuff I love about him as a person. And so like, once that happened, people kind of liked it. I'm like, well, let's just keep doing it.
Michael Crichton is great because he kind of has like a Hollywood kind of edge to him with his books. Like his books are basically high concept books. Like, so, and high concept being, you can sum it up in one sentence, right? Like dinosaurs in an amusement park. Like that's all, you can do that with every one of his books. And he has that sensibility and that's why so many of his books have been adapted, I guess. But they're always so thrilling. And
he's a director too. He's a director, so he knows. Like he directed the original Westworld. He's doing that like since the 70s. I tend to think that he wrote his books to be adapted a lot of times. Yeah. Like they read very
savvy.
Yeah. And I was always wondering too, like, he had editors, like he had an editor that he had for a long time, but I was like, what even had to be chopped off? Like I have a feeling he was such like a like a fat-free, almost sometimes like my one criticism would be like, can you give me a little meandering fat in it? Sometimes, but then I also really respect it, because if you're one of those people who, my whole mission statement with Gain of Fiction was, I think people are lying that they read all the time. I think people are like,
I 100% agree.
It might have been, in a past life read more, but in the screen Twitter era, your brain, you have to straight up train your brain to read again. Like, you have to learn how to read again, how to pay attention and not just glaze over paragraphs and stuff. And Crichton was always such a good, it's so action packed. It's so to the point. It's a really good way to start getting your brain back into reading stuff again. So that was, that's why I like him so much.
Yeah. Not an ounce of fat. I think, because of the film background, because when you write scripts, it's actually really, I think more like novelists and stuff should like get into script writing, because it's a real education, because you really have to pare everything back. Like, you only have to put in like as much as necessary. Anymore, it's just sort of superfluous. And but like, so that was probably a real education for him. That's probably why it's like very taut and lean. But yeah, love Gain of Fiction, and yes, we should do Thomas Dish.
It's funny because I have a few ideas for you. I'll ask you off the thing, just so so I don't put you on the spot for something.
Yeah. But
I have a few things. A couple things opened up, so let's just say that. But yeah, I have a few opportunities. But I want to do Ditch at some point. Yeah,
it's really great because, as you said, it is from a reader's perspective, and I think so much like literary, like book stuff, especially in the podcast world, but just generally in online, it's usually from the writer's perspective, and that can be cool if you're a certain kind of writer. Like Agitate is a great example of this. Not that they always do books, but like,
they're both. They're people. They're writers, but they're like, I don't know, like they're
normal.
If you want them to turn the writer switch on, they can, but they could also laugh at like retarded shit like that doesn't have, that's not deep or anything. Like they like Jackass and all that. Like I felt like I've known those guys since I was in high school. Like I know I've hung out with people similar to them, and I feel like we were from the same crowd and stuff, but like, yeah, they have the switch that they can turn off and on, like I can get real deep on like technical writing. I can be a critic, right? Because I think every writer is a critic deep down. But I just usually love everything at the time. Like that's why I think people are going to get sick of me after a while for just loving everything.
No, that's great, because like I feel like the past 10 years or something, there's been so much like commentary and critique and like rereading or re-examining or revisiting things and like in different kinds of theoretical lenses and stuff. Like, fuck theory, man. Like, it's all about enjoying shit now. That's what my podcast is about. Like, I'm never going to do a book that I hate. Like, I'm not going to waste my time. Like,
yeah. Exactly. I want to, like, if I'm reading with somebody, like, say we're like, getting ready to do an episode and I don't like it, I'll hit them up and be like, hey, do you like this? Like, are you liking it so far? If they're kind of the same way as me, I'll be like, if they like it, I'll be like, well, then let's rock. Cause I'm down.
That's good content.
Yeah, that's good content. And like, or you might even make a case to me why it's good. Brothers Karamazov was similar when we did that. Like, I think everybody liked it, but everyone saw something completely different in it. And that's why I really enjoy that episode. But like, there was people, if there's a book where we're both just like, this sucks. I don't want to trash a book for an hour. Like, I just don't. Like, it doesn't, it's not fun. Like, it's really not fun to do that. And so yeah, I'm always just like, well, here's what I like, here's what I like. And, yeah, I'm pretty easy to, if the author's good, I don't care what the book's about or like what it is. If they're a good writer, I'm in. So
yeah, same. Good rule of thumb. Okay. So shall we move on to talking about Harlan Ellison, who, he is one of my favorite writers, like I said at the top. And I think one of the reasons why is he's a bit of a character. Well, not a bit of a character. He is a character. Very prolific, is very sort of unromantic about writing. And this to me, when I was very young and starting out, like when I started publishing, I was publishing like little science fiction surrealist stories. And so he was a real inspiration to me in that sense. And he also had this ability to write in different registers and styles, which is really amazing. And I think you can kind of see that in the stories that like we've read for this episode. Like A Boy and His Dog is very straightforward, kind of first person, very lean. but also like very propulsive plot. And then you have something more linguistically interesting, like Paingod, which is just like the pyrotechnics are there, so he's very entertaining in that sense, like his versatility, and like that was always super inspiring to me. And the fact that he was such an abrasive character as well. Also, he was a Gemini, so like it's another point of identification with him. With me, he was born. He's older than me. Obviously, he's dead now, but he was born on the 27th, and I was the 24th. So that was so yeah, and he definitely seems to have like that Gemini spirit of like this way and that, with that kind of creative potential. But yeah, like this is part of my unintentional series of getting straight guys to read science fiction stuff, as I said. But you had never encountered him before.
I hadn't. I had heard of many titles of his. The name Harlan Ellison didn't ring anything to me. Like I had heard of Boy and His Dog. I had heard of Repent Harlequin, mostly because of that series the radio drama series, that is in there. He actually has Repent Harlequin in there, on there as well in the radio dramas, Mind Webs by Michael Hansen. I'd heard that, but Harlan Ellison, just the name didn't ring any bells. And then the minute I, even just Googled him, I was like, oh, okay. Like, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, he also wrote, to my mind, and to a lot of people kind of agree with this as well, one of the best Star Trek stories from the original series. It's really cool. It's obviously it's the 60s Star Trek, so if you're not
Forever, is that the one? Or what is that called?
The Guardian of yeah. So the City on the Edge of Forever, it's called, and basically the premise of that is that Kirk goes back in time and he falls in love with this woman who I think she works for the Red Cross or something. And then they work out, because it's like a time travel story, that in order for World War II to play out as it should, she needs to die. So he actually needs to let her die. And it's actually very characteristic of Harlan Ellison, because it's one of these like, the characters have to make this impossible, heartbreaking choice, and it's like devastating, but it's in the Star Trek universe. So it's kind of very interesting to sort of encounter that. But he had this is a thing that we'll talk about a lot, I think, is that Harlan Ellison, especially with his teleplays, often has a lot of issues with the way that producers and directors interfere with the script. And he didn't like what they did to that script and has published the original script and everything like that.
Didn't he? Because in that documentary, he had said that he had runes as the part of the setting, like actual runes, like with like designs on them and stuff. And the set designer didn't know what that was, so he did ruins, like ancient ruins. So like immediately, like quirky, insane Jewish guy, like already there, you've lost him, like there, like you missed that part of it, which I bet half the Star Trek fans are like, fine, cool, like but it's funny.
And has no time for fools either. Like he will like go you, like he would have just demolished that person, like, and was very good with words. So yeah. So he was also involved with like in terms of scripts, Babylon 5, which was like a 90s science fiction show that I really liked. It kind of looks a bit dated now because of the CGI, but like I find that very charming. And he was sort of like a consultant on that and like helped the showrunner with ideas and stuff. But yeah, very prolific with his short stories in particular. And yeah, the short stories we're looking at today are probably his most famous. What shall we start with? Let's start with what was your favorite of the bunch?
Ooh, tough call.
We'll start with that.
I think I really liked A Boy and His Dog the most. It's okay if you want to start with that, but I think I liked that the most. I did really like I did really like I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. I did really like that, but A Boy and His Dog, I read that just in one sitting, you know, like, and it was just so fun. And it was the first thing I had read of him. So I was just the absurdity of a lot of stuff that happened. It was just really fun experiencing that for the first time. The violence, the really visceral violence of it. And, which is a theme in a lot of his stuff, but a lot of that is really good. I do like Paingod a lot, though. Like, I mean, I loved them all. I mean, spoiler alert, I loved them all. But I do really like Paingod a lot. And but yeah, Boy and His Dog really resonated with me. It was fun, and just the way he feels about it is very interesting too.
Yeah, let's park that for the end, actually, because there's heaps to unpack there. But I have no mouth and I must scream. So the premise of that is fairly simple. It's like this artificial intelligence current has taken over the world and sort of left 5 humans alive, which the intelligence sort of tortures. And the artificial intelligence is so powerful that it's almost approaching a god. So it like keeps these people alive through various artificial means and basically plays with them for the entirety of the narrative, until one of the characters in a chance sort of moment basically manages to kill all of his compatriots, but he is left alive, and then the artificial intelligence basically mutates him into this blob creature that can't harm itself or anyone else without a mouth, and that's where the title comes from. That's a truly fucked up story.
It's amazing. A couple things that stuck out to me immediately was in that, I mean, this was the second one I'd read of Ellison, but I love his progressive libtard horniness that he has. Like, this was like a weird time. You like can't do this anymore if you're a libtard. Like, you can't be like horny. It's like, oh man, and she was just like, he turned her into such a whore, and she serviced all of us and stuff. And like Stephen King used to be that way. Yeah, a lot of people, but you like
with
can't
children.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's so many people that used to just be like how you wrote books. Was just like that was kind of a fun way to like launder your weird little fetishes, like and all that, and or just get really creative and hide them, you know, hundreds of pages in the books. Now with Ellison, this is what, 8 pages on the PDF or something, 13 pages on the PDF. Like, it's right then and there. But I love that. I mean, I'm always a sucker for a story, especially when I know this was one of the earlier ones before that became a huge trend of AI winning. Like, what happens after AI wins, you know? And I know Ellison sued James Cameron over this Terminator, so I think he thought he had some kind of monopoly on that concept. But I thought it was very cool, just the idea that like AI just like ate them in a sense. Like, he just permanently got them like trapped in his stomach, like, you know, like the way that it was, and he could just change the weather on him, make every single terrible condition that you could ever think of except for death. Yes. Which is what a parasite does. This is how I view parasitic. Parasite, a good parasite never kills its host. You know, and in the other way, they are the parasites in a sense, and the host is torturing the parasite. Felt like a parasite cleanse, honestly. Yeah, like it was just like a YouTube influencer or something, like holistic guy, like juice cleansing. like I love that. Like, that would be a funny twist at the end of it, where it was just, yeah, like, you know,
Bronze Age intelligence or something like that.
Slonking.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That like and this is the way Harlan Ellison's like fucked up mind works. Is that his idea is that an artificial intelligence, once it's sort of conquered the world and destroyed all humanity, well, what's it going to do? It's bored. Basically, this intelligence is bored, and like it needs these 5 humans to torture to kind of have some kind of purpose or, you know, entertainment or something like that. And it is interesting, just going back to the horniness as well, the fact that there's only one woman is crucial too. So like that, all the horniness can be channeled towards her. But yeah, this idea that, AI would get bored, and that's what it would do.
I also love that he gave the gay guy like a huge monkey cock, and like he was like the woman. He had to like have sex with the woman. That was really funny. I was like that was like, he was like literally like a simian, like primate. Like that was really good.
Yeah,
like a gay smart like scientist or so. I can't remember. I get the characters confused a little bit, but he was like a really like smart gay guy. Yeah. Really funny.
Yeah, it was so good. I love that. This would have been published. When was it published? 60s.
No, so that was Harlequin was 65.
67. It was published in Worlds of Science Fiction, and he was part of this kind of new wave. A couple of episodes ago, I kind of talked about Alfred Bester. I don't know if you've read any of his stuff.
No.
Really good, sort of classic science fiction. But Alfred Bester was kind of a bit of a bridging kind of figure between the golden age of science fiction, being like, you know, science triumphant, rocket ships, all that sort of stuff. Really, you know, hard science kind of stuff. Ellison is very much, I think, in the kind of new wave, which is like, we're putting sex in, we're putting heaps of violence in, we're putting all these like, he puts like race and gender stuff in there as well. Like, you know, libtarded stuff, but cool libtarded stuff in the 60s, you know?
It was, I mean, with his like lib stuff, like, you know, we can look back on it, like now that we're based and stuff, like look back on it, like, yeah, like that was still transgressive back then. You had actual like real fear of something happening, like, and you know, even though he's like in his older years, it's just like, oh, like nauseating, like hearing him talk about like Republicans and stuff, like in California.
Yeah.
Like he has one quote where he's like, he's in his like, he was up in the LA hills and like, don't you hate the view in the LA hills? It's so smoggy. He goes, well, the smog kills the Republicans, so I don't care. I'm up here. And it's like, that part's cringy. But like in the 60s, like I would have done that. Like I totally would have. Like I wouldn't have been some like picket fence, like, you know, like white guy, like there goes the neighborhood guy. Like that's not who I would have been. Like I would have been, you know?
Yeah. I really don't think, when people say, you know, with the Return with the V sort of thing, like the white picket fences and the kind of 50s style of, I don't think people, because people are so removed from it now, I don't think people realize how like cloistered that is for a lot of people. Like if you read the book or see the movie Revolutionary Road, you get a real sense of that. Like that people were trapped. A lot of people were trapped in it. Some people were fine with that, and there's always going to be people who are fine with that. But like, you know, figures like Ellison, and you know, really push those boundaries to, you know, show that there's other ways of living life, and which is a weird thing to say about like a story about an AI that kind of tortures people. But like putting a gay guy, even if he is a gay guy with a massive mutated penis, putting a gay guy in a story in the 60s was really fucking radical, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You could tell it was like, this wasn't something that happened everywhere. Like, you know, and this reads later than the 60s to me too. Like this reads late 70s, early 80s, like coked out Stephen King kind of like that kind of chaos and yeah, I don't know. It doesn't feel like the 60s to me.
Yeah. What else do you think about this one?
It's great. I mean, like I love AM. I love the genesis of AM and the stories of it. I love that a lot of Harlan Ellison's stories are like post World War III, it seems like, or like he really seems to love the idea, not love the idea, but just love to include that there was another world war, right? That happens, and like this is going to be, and I get why he's like mad about the Terminator, because like I don't know if James Cameron stole from him. But I get why he thinks that, because it's like, man, he's very much into like this dystopian, but not just dystopian. He didn't seem like a big tech guy. I mean, he typed on a typewriter his whole. Yeah,
he seemed like a bit of a Luddite, actually, which is where the kind of I think the horror of AM comes from. Like this is where he sees where it's going. And
that's where I really resonate with him. Is like I am like hard no on AI, like for anything. I see people like flirt with it. They think we can like harness it and like use it for good. I'm like, you know exactly what's going to happen. I don't think we're going to have Rise of the Machines like Terminator. It's dumb. We're going to become less sentient is what's going to happen. And the machines will get, I don't know how good the machines will get. I just know how bad we'll get because of it. Like we already have autocorrect. You know what I mean? Yes. We already can literally type every word to the left of the letter that we actually want, and then the word like doesn't will come
And
up.
autocorrect is fucking annoying if you have a vocabulary more than 80 words.
I turned it off. I you know what I send misspellings sometimes. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like it's a human being, you know, like and I am totally with him on that. And that part is definitely like, I know he treats writing as a job, but I think he seems very, very, he hates television. Like he actually hates like the actual act of television. Some of that might be screenwriting thing where, especially for his film career, like some of that might be in there too. But he's just like, I hate the idea. He had told this story about being in a diner. Nobody was watching the TV. Right. But it was on and it was like really loud. And he just told the waiter, like, hey, can you turn the TV off? And they're like, well, people are watching. He goes, no, they're not. And like, I'm a customer here. I just like, it doesn't seem like anybody's really invested in what's on TV. Like, can we turn it off? And he's like, people were just so interested in the fact that like, that the TV was there. It was so comforting to everybody. And I think was his view towards like pretty much any big innovation in tech. I think it seemed that way.
Yeah. And that's like all the great science fiction writers that I like. And it's usually the post mid 20th century is that they bring in the human element to innovation and technology rather than like, you know, people like, you know, Asimov and Arthur C. Clarke and stuff, they're really sort of obsessed with the science and like getting that right and everything, which is fine. Some of their stuff is fun to read, but like I'm more sort of turned on by the human element. What does this do to us, you know? And Harlan Ellison was really, really good at that.
Oh, he's incredible. I think I agree. Like I said, I think I agree with him 100% on it. Also in this, I love the use of like old mythological beasts too. And just the fact that like the characters are so shocked and it's like, how did it get this information? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, we know now how it happens because I think a lot of us know how this works. But I'm just imagining someone in the 60s. It's like, what does this computer know about like ancient Greece, like the actual beast from that time? Like, it can recreate it as if it was there, and just this idea of it. And then even if it's not accurate, that is the best recreation that now humans will think what ancient Greece was. So,
yes,
like,
yeah.
That is where I'm like, you can revise history with it. Like, and just this, I forget what it was. It was that big, like bird snake, like thing that
rock.
was,
yeah.
That thing was terrifying. Like, and the way he writes it is really good. He knows when to make you laugh. He knows when to make you sick to your stomach. He knows when to have you on the edge of your seat. Like it's all so calculated. And maybe that's part of just treating it like a job. Like maybe he has a formula, because it does seem that way in every story that I've read about him. It does seem to follow that formula, even if the content or the edginess is not the same. It does seem to follow that, but it all seems very tasteful and right at the right moment, you know?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the AI stuff as well, because like, I've talked to a few people who are now using it for work, like sort of on the down low, like reporters and stuff like that, who like, if I need to like do a, you know, just a nothing sort of story that just gives the details, they'll use ChatGPT or something like that. I'm like, this is making AM happen. You know, like,
happen, and then you're gonna then want to do a strike, like writer's strike, which I still think half of these new Netflix shows, I think they're ChatGPT, and I think their bosses found out. I think there's an underlying thing to the Hollywood writers' strike. I think that like a lot of writers were using AI, and I think it's like that whole how professors used to see if you plagiarized, they would have that thing where you can enter it in the computer. I bet you they're going to become one of those things to find out if someone did that, and I think a lot of people are going to lose their jobs thinking that they had a life hack, when really it's like, one, you just made kind of like lifeless. Because I don't think you're going to be able to make like stuff with a soul. I don't think that's going to happen. The problem is I don't think you'll need to. Like,
well, that's the thing. Like, I don't think most writers of TV and film and prose and stuff, like, because all the stuff that's popular now has no soul. So it's like you're writing like a robot already. So like, why would they have any compunction replacing you with?
It's replicating the modern human. That's the problem. Like they try to say, oh, here's AI, Orson Welles directed movie AI. It's like, no, it's not. That's not what that is. But what it can, and people look at it and go, that looks off. That looks weird, right? Like The Trial, right? Kafka, like if they did an AI recreation, you'd be like, that doesn't look like that, because there was so much weird like attention to detail, or like an old Michael Mann movie where you'll see the camera shaking and just things like that. Like you'll see now, but I think people can make like like an Issa Rae show. You know what I mean? Like I'm pretty sure AI can do that. Like,
doesn't surprise me.
That's not a knock to her. I'm sure she pours her heart and soul into that stuff. I'm not saying that that's the case, but like it doesn't stick to your rib, right? It's not like real sustenance, and you're gonna AI will if that's where community standards are at, AI can just come in and do that. Like, so yeah, like that's what that reminds me of. That's why I think Ellison illustrates that perfectly, is just the idea of like, this is the only world I know, so it doesn't really matter how smart AI is, because this is all I know.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
If you spend all of your time writing bloodless prose, then like something that can automate bloodless prose is going to replace you. Sorry.
Like at Red Scare, there was that thing, and I thought it was sad and demonic of the people who were doing like the AI Red Scare. Everybody thought that was so funny, and I was like, this sucks. Like, this is just like really bad. And like, I do like them. I think they put like I think they put like a lot of, like, it doesn't sound like they put a lot of effort in, but they're smart girls. Like, and then like, they actually like have an interesting look on at things. And like, just to see somebody like, this is all they do, you know, and like, man, it bothers me. Like, I feel crazy because people are like, dude, like, come on, Terminator, huh? And that's like, then they turn these things back against you, right? I talked about this with Jack recently. Like, when you talk about censorship, it's the same way. You say it's like 1984 or Fahrenheit 451. It's like, well, they didn't go into the library with flamethrowers, dude. So like, what are you talking about? It's like, I know, but
that's why you said it's called a simile.
Yeah. Like, you know, AI hasn't taught them that yet. So yeah, the thing is, like, you see it now. Like you see these, like, it doesn't happen overnight. Like in a movie, you know, in a movie you have 2 hours, right? In a book you have 400 pages, like mostly and so it happens rather quickly. But like, these happens over years and years and years, and you kind of just forget what the past used to be. And they're in that thing for 109 years. In I Have No Mouth, they're in there for 109 years, but he's also like, I don't know if that's true. Like, he kind of just is like, I don't know how long I think we've been here 109 years, but I'm not in control of my environment. So I don't know. Like the weather can change at any moment. So he's like, I don't know.
Yeah. And that's like the really scary thing about it as well. Like that's a sort of a proto Matrix kind of idea, right? Like, yeah. So, but yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, he's so influential. Like, he's just so, you can see in a way that when I read Pynchon, it's the same way where it's like, God, I see this everywhere. And I had seen all the stuff that had come from it. And then you get to like I don't know if it's the genesis of it, but it seems like it is, at least in popular culture. And you're just like, wow, I have so much more respect for this now, because you just see it everywhere, you know?
Well, yeah, that's why I would recommend to you going back and having a look at Alfred Bester, because I said in my episode too, that like so much of cyberpunk and like contemporary science fiction, when I say contemporary, I mean like later half of the 20th century on, is influenced particularly by The Star's My Destination. Just like, this was written in the 50s, it could have been written yesterday. Like,
okay, let's do Gain of Fiction on that then. I literally will take you at your word. Like, I don't.
Well, I've already done an episode of that, but
okay. Well, we'll find one of his. Let's do one of his that you haven't done then, and then we'll do one, because I wanted this already is right up my alley. So
let's do it. Like, Demolished Man is a really good one too. Like, it's cool. Sort of like a more noir science fiction. So. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. That's perfect for me. Yeah. Okay. Let's do that, because I have to actually take a thing off of my list, and that would be a perfect substitute. So
let's do it. All right. We're just planning things while we record the episode.
I love it. I get excited when I hear it as a listener sometimes.
Yeah, I just leave it in.
Yeah, but like when I hear two people I like talking, and they're like, "Oh, cool, that's cool. You guys can do that. Like, that's sweet. I'll be looking forward to that. You know, like as a listener." So yeah, I get excited hearing about like all this new stuff. So yeah, amazing story from Ellison there. I mean, it was just like, I read it really tired a couple nights ago, and
God.
But like I dozed off, not because it was boring, but I was just really tired, and then I woke up, and then I was like, well, let me reread it, and then I reread it like Wired, and I was just like, oh shit, like, and it was like both were very like, man, it was a really interesting way to read that story.
Well, yeah, I like really jet lagged, and I was reading these because we were recording today, and it was so psychedelic, so much more psychedelic than it would have been.
So cool. Yeah, so cool. I love it.
There's also, I should mention as well, a video game adaptation, which I didn't have time to investigate, but I probably will after we finish recording. I'm not sure how this works. I think it's just a point and click adventure game, kind of like are you old enough to remember Monkey Island?
No. I mean, maybe I'm old enough, but I don't play it. Yeah, I'm 32, so.
It's the same sort of thing. You just have a scene and you kind of point and I think it's just about like how you navigate this world. It's a fun idea for a game. It'd be really cool, like on a modern system. You could really go like whole hog with it. All right, next story we'll look at. I think we'll go with Repent Harlequin. Cried the Ticktockman or said? I can't remember.
Yeah, I know his titles are so funky sometimes.
Said the Ticktockman.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now this one's really funny because his sort of kind of rationale for writing this. I think I remember reading this in an anthology years ago. That he wrote this because he's always late to things. And he's always getting reprimanded by people. Yeah,
you can tell it's a personal, like a troll, like a kind of a troll.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, and this must be like my most non-Gemini trait because I hate being late for things. Hate it.
Making anxiety. I kind of was like, hey, the time guy's based actually. Like, I was like, dude, this is tight. Like, I was like, you stop doing the jelly beans, like, because that's we're trying to get things done.
I think I got some German in me somewhere, like that. We need to be on time, you know. Like I just
same way. My parents were like not even on time, early, like painfully early things, like as a kid. And I was just like, my wife's the same way. So like we're just like the dummy that's like setting up with the people at the party, like instead of being late, like we're like, well, do you need help with anything in the kitchen? Like the lady's like got the towel around her head, her hair's not even dry yet. Like, we're those type of people.
That's good to know. That's good to know. Then like everyone can know that you invite helpers like Glenn and his wife to your party if you want.
Yeah. Just invite me to the party where you'll have free help. Yeah, because we'll be so nervous and awkward when we show up. So yeah.
So yeah, the premise of this is basically that it's another dystopian future society where like everything is like measured and down, you know, on time. Like everyone has time that they have to follow, and if they don't follow it, they're punished by getting time taken away. So basically, you know, if you have a deficit in time, that is taken away from your lifetime. And basically it's this character called the Harlequin, who is sort of a bit of a rebel kind of carnivalesque figure who sort of tumbles through the world and like challenges this system. And the Ticktockman is the guy who keeps time and is trying to stop him. And basically it kind of plays with the idea of time, the way it's structured. It starts in the middle, and then the beginning is in the middle, and then the end is the end, I think.
I think so too, yeah.
Yeah, and so really interesting story, and clearly, like we said, very personal about someone who was clearly always late. It's really funny actually when I was like doing like extra research for this, looking up all the videos of him going to Q&As and stuff like that. Always late. Like they'll be like, there was one which was like a boy and his dog Q&A, and the guy who was hosting it was like, well, Harlan's not here, so we'll have to wait.
Insane. Oh, that would drive me insane. And like, well, you know, a few minutes, tasteful, 5 to 10 minutes, whatever. Like, no problem. Like my wife and I, we saw. My wife loves. I don't know if you know Tyler Henry, the Hollywood Medium. I don't know if you've ever seen that guy's show.
Sounds like I would love it.
It's kind of hokey, but he is. She really likes him. And it's. But he's like totally like a parapsychology guy. So we went and saw him live, and he like basically like he goes to celebrities like on E, and he goes to their house, and like they want to speak to their dead family members, and he's the medium between that way. And like a lot of people say it's bullshit, but like he gets a lot of it right. And we saw him live where he just takes people from the audience and does it. It was pretty interesting. And he doesn't like always work. Like he's not one of those guys like, nope, works 100% of the time. Like sometimes he's just like, man, signal's not clear this time. But then a couple times he just like nails it. But he was like an hour late. Like, and we were just like, fuck this guy. we were like so mad. And he's like a little like, I don't know if I think he's gay. Like, oh yeah, he is. Cause he came out, he's like super flamboyant gay guy. That like he'll go to like Sheryl Crow's house and help her like talk to her mom or something. That's like the show, you know, just a thing a thing like that. It totally reminds me of like that with the Q&A, like where I'm just like, it makes me nervous when the other person's late type of thing.
Yes.
Like,
yeah. And I hate being that person as well. Like I hate being like, I am so embarrassed. Like it's the worst.
Yeah, but the story is fun. It's more lighthearted. I definitely thought that there was like a Nazi type reference to it, like in a sense. And then also the just the idea that, you know, the whole theme is basically like, well, if you want anything good to happen, you can't care about time, right? Like, which I found interesting for a guy who valued quantity so much. You know, like he seemed like he was constantly trying to increase volume of like things that he put out, and that's why it seemed like a lot of his stuff is short novellas and things like that. Like that's an interesting thing. I'd like to know more about that with him. Like, well, like, the thing you'd think you'd be really like on it, you know?
Yeah. And he was like he used to do this thing. It was a kind of a shtick that he did, which is he would like write a whole story. He would get a prompt from someone, and it would be like usually coincide with a book signing or something like that. He would get a prompt from someone, set up his typewriter in the window of a bookstore, and basically write a story in a day. And I'm like, you need, if not like a sort of a stringent kind of watching kind of sense, you need a sense of time to sort of do that, right? You're like, all right, I'm only at the middle. I need to like, you know, crank this out a little bit more. So it's like, it's interesting because and you do feel this actually. I think this is a very writer thing to feel that time is something that is constantly running away. Everyone feels that. Yeah. But in terms of being prolific and getting everything that you can possibly get out there before you die, I think that's part of it as well. Like, yeah,
I know. Joseph Conrad was like that too, in a sense. Like his publisher, like he would just say like, hey, he would make this weird like spiritual reference, like when his publisher would like be like, hey, like do we got anything, you know, like, and he would just be like, hey, like my spirit's not aligned quite yet, and all these things. And like there is truth to that in a sense where it's like, okay, there might just be a day where nothing comes to my mind. Do you want something bad, you know? But then he even says in the story, like, it's like, hey, get that script on my desk. I need it now. I don't care if it's good or bad, like kind of thing. So you could tell that there's definitely those like soulless Hollywood people or like soulless, you know, publishers that are just like, your name is what I want, and I need your name on the page, especially because by that time his name is pretty, you know, I think it's 65 by that point. Like his name rings bells. Like, so if people are just going to read the Harlan Ellison story, no matter what, they know that whatever magazine this gets published in or whatever collection it's in, it's going to sell. It's a name that sells itself. It's like, you know, a certain artist's album that's like, okay, is it its best? I don't care. It's out. We're going to tour. We're going to do this. We're going to like, the business aspect of it is where the time comes in probably.
Yeah. I really loved hearing, speaking of him, like kind of writing short stories and like doing it on a deadline. I really loved hearing his stories, just in interviews and stuff, how when he was living in New York, he would like sell a story every week and that would like pay for his rent, all his food and everything in fucking New York.
Money back then too on short stories. I think it was like, cause you know, you'd get in like Esquire, you know what I mean? If you wrote something for like Esquire back then, or like Philip K. Dick, I know made a killing off like short stories. And a lot of these other people like now, like, I mean, you probably don't make a damn thing if you write short stories.
I can tell you don't. The last short story I made $150.
Days. They treat you guys like Uber drivers and shit. Like, it's like, it's terrible. I mean, it's like, it's truly terrible. And also because magazines don't exist. So, I mean, that's not to say that my friends like Ryan Simone, Matt Fresta, who have wonderful publications, and I'm hoping that it does return. But like the big, I want to buy your story, those days are like, if they're not here right now, and I hope they do come back, we'll see on how big of a scale that can happen. But like, I definitely felt that in this story. This was the most like detached from the world that he developed of the stories, like where I was kind of like, okay, I'm not in this. He's just trying to tell me something. Like it's a bit different, but it's very funny. Like it's very funny. Like the whole like calculating of the time, like you know the time as a currency kind of thing, like where it's like you've been this late, and then the way that it ends is like then the Ticktockman's late. You know, like it's very funny and quirky and silly. Yeah.
I don't know, like, where do you come down on this though? Clearly we like to be on time, but like, I feel like, oh, and am I being square by siding with the TikTok man?
Yeah, I like, to be honest. Okay, pretty anti-fascism, not in an Antifa cringe way, but I'm pretty like live and let live.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I were to ever, you know, be suckered in by a dictatorship, time would be involved.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm obsessed with, I'm actually like obsessed with everyone's definition of time. It's like one of those things like, you know, like you'll listen to those like self-help podcasts or like those like normie podcasts are like, what is your why? Like when they like ask like the person they have on and it'll be like Matt Damon or something, but and they would be, oh, well, I do it for this. Like my thing would be like, how do you view time? Like I want to know how everybody views it. Like anybody, the homeless guy on the street, so I want to know like what, like, how do you view time? And I think it's fascinating. Like, cause I know people that treat time like it doesn't exist, but like they're still very productive. And possibly maybe they're just not stressed out ever. Like time stresses me the hell out, you know, like really stresses me out. But it's also like it is a social construct. Like it's a necessary one at that. But like it's social construct. Look at all the calendars we had. We like 2012 people believe the Mayans.
Yeah,
you know, like look at all the calendars we have. Like, so I am definitely, I might put on the Ticktockman patch in the 30s. I might be like, all right, like, get your ass to work, man. Like, like that appeals to me a little bit. If we can have a little more fun, I need a little more bells and whistles though. Like he wasn't giving anything fun or anything. So
that's how the powers that be get Glenn in the next psyop. It has to be time based. Yeah.
The CIA is listening right now. They're like, all right. Yeah, the TikTok man, they think it's like TikTok, the app or something. yeah.
No, what was I going to say? Like about time, yeah. The other thing about time that I think this story, particularly now, is relevant. People make out like they have none of it, and I'm like, no, you have heaps of time.
Oh,
like
more time than ever. Actually,
yeah, it's like, oh, I'm so busy, I have no time. Like, oh, you just spent 3 hours scrolling through TikTok. Speaking of TikTok.
No, that is the truest thing ever, where people will say like, I don't have time to read books. It's always books. It's always to be books. It always seems to be a thing that doesn't give you that crazy immediate like stimulation of like a screen. Like everybody has time to watch, to binge shows. Everybody has time to scroll. Everybody has time to do a lot of stuff. But they don't have time to pursue the thing that they've always wanted to pursue because they're scared of it. And two, they don't have time to sit down and read. Like those are just the two things that I always hear. Like my dad was telling me that the other day. I was like trying to get him to read like some books, and like I forget what book it was. It was a Crichton book, Disclosure, and I wanted to give him the book because he's an office guy. So I was like, I think he would like it a lot, and he worked in like a similar field for a long time. And I was like, I was going to give him the book, and he's like, I think I'm going to save that for when I retire. He's like, when I have more time. I'm like, Dad, you work from home now. Like you don't have a commute. Like you don't have anything. You know, it's just like this thing where I think people are like obsessed with, for one, appearing busy. I think there's there's definitely like something you can achieve by appearing busy, like, and then because you're not, but also just, like just giving the illusion that like everybody wants to hang out with you all the time. You're constantly hanging out and stuff. And I do wish we had more hours in the day, but that's mostly because I work a job with long hours. If I didn't work a job with long hours, I wouldn't care about time at all. Like,
oh, well, that's what I had to say. I forgot to say before, actually. Like you do, how many episodes a week do you do?
At least 2.
And you work full-time hours at the same time.
Full-time hours. Yeah. I upload everything, which uploading is the hardest part of podcasting.
Yeah.
Especially because we do video. So it's like sitting there, keeping your computer open. Sometimes I leave my computer open overnight while something uploads. And that's why sometimes Australians are like, cool, it's 2:00 in the afternoon. Like for me, it's like, no, this is like when I'm going to bed. But I think staying busy like that is good. I enjoy it. It does suck, but also I think my lack of stimulation at my job tends to come out when I finally get home. So sometimes I wonder if I'd be too domesticated if I didn't have that, and too docile.
I just raise that as a point, like that, you know, if you're working full time and you can still be this prolific, then like nobody really has an excuse to not,
like,
you know.
I understand fathers, like, like but it's Twitter. Like there's like 4% people have kids. Like it's like, you know, it's for the most part, like, you know, the people I see that say they don't have time, it's like, nah, you just want to make sure that you catch up on the latest you know, Longhouse thread. Arguing in the Longhouse thread. Like that's what you want to make sure you have time for that. Like make sure you have
that's really important stuff right there.
It's really important because that's how people get their rush nowadays. Like I get my rushes at work because I deal with the public and all this stuff, and out in the sun I get my rushes there. Like it's not very fun, but like I think people seek that like conflict a lot. That's why when they're isolated at home or just not, you know, kind of just working at home, they're like, I love it, I'm working from home, it's great. I believe them, but I don't think they're stimulated. So I think they're looking for that. I think that's what they're looking for.
The other thing I would mention about podcasts too, and I've said this many times on my podcast, and I think you'll agree with me, stop complaining about long podcasts. Like, I don't have time to listen to like a 2.5 hour podcast about Philip K. Dick. I'm like, yes you do, because it's good.
Like your one with Ryan. I mean, it was just like that was long. It was you guys weren't in a rush, which is great. It's so funny. I joke about this with Jack sometimes and like other people when you listen to those really tight, like 1 hour ones. And then like half the time you realize it's actually 40 minutes because they have to do their ads, the Blue Apron ad. They have to do credits for the, like, our producer. Our producer works so hard. You guys don't understand. You just hear us. My producer's wonderful. It's like half that is that.
The producer does what we do, basically, on top of also being the host of the show. And
then the funniest part of the podcast will be something that they organically get to, like a side joke, like a little tangent that they go on. Then they have to immediately apologize for the tangent. This is great podcasting. Like that. And they're like, let's get back on track. Oh man, like we're sort of short on time. And it's like, yeah, I get it if somebody has to go somewhere, but it's like, you guys probably get paid for this shit. Like, if I got paid for this, we're going 4 hours daily. I'm interviewing everybody. I'm going to go travel. I'm going to go find people. I'm going to go interview people in West Virginia and like see if they've had seen any
to Australia.
I would love to.
Yeah, we'll try and find a bunyip.
If they would have me, I'd do what they have me right now.
Yeah, they would. All that stuff's gone.
Okay, good. Yeah, no, I would absolutely love that. I'm obsessed with, I love spiders and stuff like that. So I want to see like the crazy huntsman and like all those fun things like that. Like that's what I'd like to see. So, but yeah, this is a great podcast. Let's get back to the story.
Tangent.
Yeah. Oh no. It's like they're in a sweatshop sometimes. But like, what's funny is like, if you talk, like my dad can't stand small talk on podcasts. Like when he listens to, David Spade and Dana Carvey's podcast called Fly on the Wall. And like my dad will just be like, they spent the first 10 minutes just talking about the dentist. Oh, like I wanted to, and I was like, I bet it was funny, And then I'll listen and I'll be like, that's the best part of it. Actually, it was that one. And because, but like they're used to the news. They're used to curated like news productions, true crime pods, like documentary style. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I think, we're going more into podcasts, but like I don't care. It's a tangent and I love it. That's why I think a lot of the best podcasts now that have been around for a while, I think have sort of moved on from that it's not about the latest take or like the political happening. I know you guys still kind of do that, but like you have extra, you have extra stuff. But it's great because it's like, we've had so much of that we don't need any more takes. I don't care about the Longhouse.
No, and I want to be a few weeks behind whatever's current. I want to kind of, like I said, there's a middle of the Venn diagram. Sometimes there's something that's current that really appeals to me. Of course. Talk about it, but I don't want to ever feel compelled to talk about something.
Talk about the news. Yeah.
Talk about this. We have to talk about this. Emergency. Let's go talk about this. And then a week later, after the people don't care about it anymore. And then like your back catalog sucks when somebody finds out about your show because it's all about the thing a month ago that wasn't that big of a deal anyways. Yeah. And so it's,
what are they talking about?
That's time. That's time. That's completely different philosophy of time. There's people that think time is only the present, right? And I come to think that there's no actual future. I don't think you can go to the future. I think the future is all a projection. That's why I believe in remote viewing. I think it gives you a projection of a couple outcomes. That's what it can be. I think there's only the past and the present. And but there's people that I just think only think there's the present. Like, and it's that's always,
and they're the worst people.
and they frame it as though like live now, like enjoy. Like, no, they're all in fear and they're scared of everything.
Yeah. That's why they have to have these mantras like, living now. And I don't want to say live, laugh, love, because I actually think that's very wise. So
that's well, and don't say eat, pray, love, because that's bad. She's the thing with the Russia thing.
Yeah. I actually want to do that book because I feel like it's going to be way better than people made it out to be.
I love the movie. I've never seen it. My wife thought it was a good movie. Like she really enjoyed it. The story is great though. I do love the Repent Harlequin. It's really fun, especially like the last part of it when he's finally facing the Harlequin's finally facing, I think his name's Everett, is facing the Ticktockman, which I think that part's really good.
Yeah, it's his most sort of whimsical of the stories that we're looking at today, definitely. Okay, the other one that, before we move on to Boy and His Dog, the other one that I think you chose this one was Paingod. And I had read this before.
One more thing about Harlequin, because it's going to tie into Paingod. I actually found a way to simulcast the short storied radio drama with reading the PFF. I read along with it. That was really fun.
Wow.
That was really fun.
I just played it, I guess.
Michael Hansen's Mind Web, and I just followed along with it. It was really cool. Like it was actually it made it feel like it turned into a movie. It was cool. Like it was quite fun. So I don't like to overstimulate dopamine stuff for a lot of people. I think that, but maybe as a treat, you guys could do that.
Paingod is one that'd be good for that one, I think.
I bought the short story collection. I'm going to do it. I mean, I'm just going to try it out because it's really fun. But you're going to need some like reference text because the radio thing is tough. It's really dense and really psychedelic and surreal. So it's like, it is tough. Mm-hmm. So
I actually wanted to ask you about that radio thing. Where did you find that?
Dude, it is the craziest story. Sounds weird, but like in October, my wife's dad died, and like we were really like sad. And I'd finally gone back to work, and it was the first day I'd gone back to work. I was helping her with all this stuff. It was a really sudden thing that happened. And then I went to I was working in this really fun California neighborhood where everybody had like little like patio furniture out in the front yard, a lot of trees and stuff. There was this quirky old scientist looking guy that was watching us do road construction. And he was talking to me about stuff. And I think he knew I was like a little, like kind of a different kind of guy, like just not like your average construction worker and stuff. And I was talking about,
not Mexican.
True. Yeah. But also not like a Monster Energy hack. Like, like those are the two genres of construction.
Yeah.
So like, with like chew tobacco in the lip, like I'm definitely was different. And I can't remember what we brought up. We were talking. It was like, I was on lunch. I was eating lunch, and it was right by his house, and we were talking, and he mentioned like a sci-fi writer. He talked about, he mentioned John Barth, I think was there, Barth. John Barth. Yeah. He mentioned that, and I was talking, and we started talking about books. He goes, "Hey, have you ever heard of Mind Webs?" I was like, "What is that?" And he goes, "So it's on Internet Archive." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." Like, and he said, he was this old guy. Like, I was going to tell him, like, send me the link, but he's just like, "I don't know what that is." Like, I listen on my computer at home. Like, they're on the page. I think he has the tab permanently open on his like boomer computer, but he was just real like quirky, like flat brim hat, like long gray hair, glasses on, kind of looking guy. And he goes, "Check this guy out." So Michael Hansen he was at the University of Wisconsin, and he had a radio series. I think he ran the radio department there, but him and his students, they would do radio dramas of a bunch of sci-fi short stories. Like there's Philip K. Dick's The Imposters on there, which is so good. There's actually some Steinbeck on there. There's a lot of fun stuff. They would I forget who Bradbury's on there. There's a lot of good stuff. But his wife, after Michael Hansen died, just put them all on Internet Archive. I guess that was kind of one of his like dying wishes. And so there's like 150 on the Internet Archive, and they're really fun. I downloaded them to my computer, and just like I play them sometimes, like when I'm like working out or something like that. Like it's really nice. And that's how I just found out about a lot of like really fun authors and that. But it was just, the reason I brought up my wife's dad dying was just like, it was just one of those things. Then we were driving to her mom's house to just be around some family, and that was about a 5-hour drive to Nevada, and we just put those on. And it was just so fun, calm and soothing. And like, there's really fun musical, like synth, like old 70s sci-fi backgrounds and in the back. And it was just such a positive memory of such a bad time. And I still to this day do it. And then when you asked to do Harlan Ellison, I was like, let me go check the Internet Archive. If he's that popular, there has to be something on there. And there's two on there.
So many, yeah. Oh, there's only two. I thought there'd be more.
That I've seen. I haven't even seen the whole archive. I'm sure there's a few more, but the two that Repent, Harlequin's on there, and then this one, Paingod, that we're talking about now. And that was the one that I was like, shit, dude, let's talk about this one too. This is a trip. This one is like really psychedelic and like surreal and meta and yeah.
About like a praying mantis.
Very like
deals out.
It's like a Terrence McKenna, but if Terrence McKenna wasn't like an atheist, I think that would be this, like a cool atheist. Like that's what this would be like. This story.
Yeah. It's interesting, like listening to it. I didn't reread this. I listened to this. Like I'd read it years ago. And what you were saying about it being very soothing is really true. Even though Paingod is a story that it's not a soothing story.
No,
like,
sure, yeah.
But like it is very kind of weirdly cozy when you're listening to it. Like it's something about the music and the narration and all adding up to, even though it's quite a disturbing, unsettling story. It's I get what you're saying about that vibe. Definitely.
Imagine like, okay, so like Wisconsin, you're in the 70s in Wisconsin. I think he had this show from like 1971 to like 89. I think he had, it was just like a once a week he would do filled the air with all types of other stuff, but he put these like, imagine if you're like that 70s show kids, you know what I mean? Like stoned in your basement and like you just turn the radio on, or you're on a drive, very similar to like listening to Art Bell, like it's a similar, who I also love. I'm just a sucker for a really good broadcaster, and I love radio. It's like one of my first loves. And, I love it. I just love the idea of like, that's what, like, if somebody's seeking that out on the radio, like, and just the idea that like people were so much smarter back then. Like they were just so much smarter, and it was just because things like that. Like there's no demand for that shit anymore. Like there's no demand for that. There's barely even a demand for a podcast of that. You know, like I mean, people don't know that they need it, but it's so cool. Like I loved it, and like with this story, I mean the premise of the story for people who don't know is, I mean, it's really tough to explain, but it's basically there is a god of pain, right? But the pain god is not the first one, and they're looking for the final one to just have the gods, the council or whatever it's kind of like an office job. Almost.
They need the cultural fit.
Yeah, it's like very much like a pencil pusher thing, but like it's a meta thing where you're affecting all these small like life forms, which are us essentially. And they need a guy like they're like, and he can't figure out why nobody stayed, anything, but also so he ends up going to Earth because he started feeling like he was caring, and he's responsible for, like, say a ship capsizes, or somebody gets sick, or like there's a huge invasion, a war, or something like that. He's responsible for all that. That's the reason pain happens, is because of him. He's the pain god. His name's Tronte, I believe is his name. And so then he starts to feel bad. Like he's like, I'm starting to care, and this is like not good. I'm caring. Like this is so what he does is he goes to Earth and basically inhabits a dying like homeless man body or something, and then goes and finds a guy who just has like a hand injury, but he was a sculptor, right? But he got to see his work happen, right? He was so detached and separated from his work that like if he caused a full genocide, it would have just been another day at the office and he would have never thought about it. But he sees that like this sculptor guy that is can't do his job anymore because of just like a hand injury, and he has like the shakes and all that. And he realizes, he starts going through all these like emotions. He's caring even more, but then he gives the guy the skill back basically and takes him on a ride, shows him all these things. You get the skill, right? Now you have the skill back. Your hand doesn't hurt anymore. Now you're going to sculpt. And he kind of like blacks out and like sculpts everything, but doesn't remember doing it and remember how he did it, and doesn't enjoy doing it. Didn't get the love that he had and can't replicate it. So then the guy's worse off, and he was a recovering alcoholic, and he starts drinking again. So like the whole idea was that like actually the pain you caused him with the hand, it stopped one thing, or it stopped the thing that he loved, but it also kind of like stopped his vice, right? And now he's way worse off because of it. So then the whole thing is that it's how necessary pain is. Like pain is probably the most Ellison, I guess, is saying, if this is truly how he feels, which I do think this is how he feels, is pain is way more necessary than anything else, because everything else goes off of pain. Love goes off of pain. Joy goes off of pain. All of the stuff that we want in life, it comes from pain. And the absence of pain is the absence of joy, right?
Exactly.
And it's great. And then at the end, there's that scene where the little tear goes down his cheek and stuff. So it's a beautiful story. I mean, I think it's great. And like you said, the radio drama makes it cozy. I think if you just simply read it, I would. Like it. So you would get a lot different. I think you would view it a lot differently. But I think he views pain that way. I think he does. Yeah.
Do you think that comes from his atheism? I do want to speak about the atheism now, or wait until A Boy and His Dog?
yeah, and I think that's him rationalizing his atheism, because a lot of times you talk to atheists, they think that like God can't exist because pain exists. A lot like childhood
theosity is what it's called.
Sure, there you go. He's one of those guys, like you talk to like a lot of like Reddit-y atheists that are just like, well, how do you explain childhood cancer? It's like, well, listen to my podcast. I'll be glad to explain. But there's they'll say, how do you explain that? How do you explain famine? How do you explain all these things? And it's like, well, for one, like they have a different view of what a life is. They think all humanity is reduced to 82-year life expectancy. And, so they, in turn, they think that they're more enlightened, but actually they're more fearful and they care more because they don't think they have that much time on this earth. And Ellison is very much that way. That's why he freaked out so hard about so many things. Like he was just constantly freaking out, so high strung, because like he had to get it right in that 82-year span. But I think he was rationalizing it with this story in a sense that like, no, it is coming from somewhere, this pain. Because as a kid, he got made fun of a lot. And then he like had this really like sad story where like he knew he was kind of a shithead as a kid. And like he brought on some of the bullying. He's a real small guy, kind of dorky looking, but he would get bullied all the time for being like a nerdy kid. And even his mom was just like, well, what did you do? What did you do say? And he's like, I just didn't have anybody that like really understood what was happening. And I think he harbored all that stuff. But then also he's like, well, I'm famous as shit because of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm famous as shit. Like if I didn't go through that, I'm not famous, which is funny because like that should lead you to like a huge spiritual thing, but he's completely aspiritual. And as far as what he would tell you is aspiritual, I think his writing says otherwise. Because I don't think you can be a writer that's aspiritual. I think the two mediums do not mix.
No, I don't think so either. I think like in some sense it's a spiritual act, like any creative act, really. It's like, because it's
especially long form like that, like something, it's like you're say that like the average human, how long does it take them reading a novel, right? 2 to 3 weeks, probably, maybe more, depending on the pages. But like that's somebody spending a long time with you when that happens, like a long time. And it's every day, it's not just an hour a week of a TV show. It's not an album. But I do think music is the most like writing, in a sense that like I'm just repeating this song. I'm going through these songs. Okay, now I'm on track 3. I'm gonna listen to track 3 400 times. I'm gonna, like, when you really get that album that sticks with you, that's it. Just even if you are an atheist in a sense, I don't think that it's possible to convey the atheist nihilist kind of thing that he claims to have. I don't think writing is what does it. Like I don't think that's the way to convey it. Which
is why you don't actually see that many writers and artists who openly kind of proclaim atheism. Atheism is usually the thing for like the Sam Harris, Richard Dawkins nerds who aren't artistic in any way and really have a huge blind spot when it comes to art. Like they just like, oh yeah, sometimes religion has like influenced art, but it doesn't have to. That's the best they got. Like,
say what you will about Peterson. Say what you will about Jordan Peterson, but I could listen to him talk about literature forever. I think he's really good. I've listened to him a lot because I was doing Dostoevsky a lot. I mean, that's his guy, and he's really good at talking about him. Like and Peterson, I wouldn't say is like a super religious guy, but he definitely doesn't shy from any of that stuff, and or spiritual or anything like that. But he's really good. And even if I view it different from him, I can tell that he's not trying to strip everything of spirituality that he reads or anything like that. And that's why I think sometimes you'll see Ellison, even if he doesn't know he's doing it, is definitely he's afraid to go all the way, and but that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's just a wonderful story. I mean, it's a wonderful story, and I agree with it. That's the thing. I have a different outlook of him, but like that is true. What the Paingod is a true story. Like if you think of everything that happens in real time, if you are just one of those people that only lives in the present, you think everything that happens to you is like a scoreboard. Like I've had this many good things that have happened to you, this many bad things that have happened to you. It's like, no, the bad thing is a test. It's not a punishment. It's a test,
and it's necessary. And that's almost Buddhist too. The idea that like suffering is this thing that just has to exist. Like
totally.
And I guess their whole eschatology is to get beyond the wheel of suffering, but still, the idea is that it's a part of the universe and a thing that does make joy more joyful because you have suffering that But so. Yeah, I think his atheism is really interesting. I always find that, like we were saying before we started recording, that sort of atheist artists, I don't believe in God or spirituality or something like that. It always comes through in other ways, like either they believe in some kooky shit, like they're a Scientologist or something. There's a funny story about Scientology with him as well that maybe we'll get to later. Or they'll be really gung-ho about something else, like social justice and something like that. And that becomes their religion.
It's the Voltaire. It's if God doesn't exist, humans will create one. I mean, nobody is completely aspiritual, right? Like there's always going to be, it's a tired quote, but people would say wokeness is a religion. I mean, it's true. That's what people did. We're at the least, theistic part of America, at least, or in the West, I can say, like, we are at the least theistic we ever have, but I don't think people haven't like grown from it. Like they've regressed in my opinion. So, yeah.
But also, and probably like right-wing trads and stuff would hate this, but it's actually, an offshoot of Christianity too. Like it's hyper Christian because like it's the idea of like equality being for all, which was the great innovation of Christianity was that, and that's why it caught on so fast in the Roman Empire because like, women, slaves, everyone was like, oh, I'm as worthy as the emperor or the king or whatever. But now that's just that logic that's been secularized and distributed throughout the culture.
It's
like
secularized once it's secularized, and I'm not saying that this didn't happen with like religious societies, but like you then are allowed to change the rules all the time. It's secularized because at least Christianity had source material, like obviously you can interpret it in different ways. And
IP.
There's some work.
Yeah. Catholic cinematic universe that they have. They've got a Bible, or they've literally got a Bible.
Exactly. Like, no, I mean, there's source material. Like you have like at least something you can call back and be like, this doesn't seem right. Like, like if somebody's taking it the wrong way, like this, what we're doing right now, where we're going, there are no rules, there aren't rules except for the ones that I come up with in the moment that it's is it really worth losing your job over the Howling Mutant, wonderful template, that he came out with. Like it's exactly that. But no, I think, Ellison was like talking about like, I'm an atheist and I feel confident saying that. And I'm not one of those agnostic cowards, people that say agnostic instead. Like I think he really used it as like a piece of aggression, as a hedge too. I think as a hedge. And also I think sometimes there's a chance that when you're so good and so lauded for something, you can tend to get a little big for your britches and think that, oh, you're saying someone just gave this to me. Somebody just awarded me this talent.
That's a really good point, actually.
Not what anybody's saying. Like, that's not what, I mean, some people might, but like, that's not anybody that can view that as saying like, no, only a few people do have your talent. Right. However, you still, like, humans have free will, and you still chose to work your ass off and really push to it and get better and teach people. He taught so many people. Dan Simmons who's a author that I plan on reading pretty soon. Like just like some of these guys that like learned from him. It's wonderful, but it's the idea that like you almost feel like you think you're watering down your accolades, which you are. I mean, you are. You do need to like water yourself down. You do need to humble yourself. Like I think that every major religion teaches you that, and I think sometimes people have really a lot of trouble with that. Yeah, like with what that was. So I think that's what Ellison struggles with.
Yeah, I mean, talent is one thing, like God given or inborn or however you want to frame it. But yeah, you're right. You do have to do something with it. Like I know so many people who are amazing writers and just never do anything with it. They're just like, like
right.
It's not worth my time.
No.
But like you do have to, like, it's not just about being naturally gifted. You have to produce stuff. And even if you're not naturally gifted, produce stuff anyway.
Sure. No, there's people that definitely make up for a lack of God-given talent with work ethic. Yeah. With just straight up consistency, like just this like just they show up on time, like there's people that do that. Like they applaud. They're the football coaches when I played a lot of sports, like football and baseball coaches, they said the best ability is availability. Like, and that's like the people make up for it that way. But like, somebody like Ellison, who's just a master at what he does, I can see maybe thinking like, I did this. I did this, which is like a classic anti-Christian thing. Like the Bible warns you about that every single time. Like that, like when pride. The minute that think it's a pride. Yeah, it's just 100% the sin of pride. And like, I think that a lot of people disagree so hard that they become an atheist. Like,
and that's also probably why he's so litigious too, because like, I did this is my idea. And it's just like, and I think he was actually very successful because I think when he did sue people, he had, they settled.
Yeah, he was willing to go bankrupt. He was willing to go bankrupt suing people. Yeah, it was insane.
A lot of them were settled though, so I think like a lot of studios or other writers or something were just like, we don't need this sort of nuisance, so we'll just pay him off or whatever.
AOL was one of them too. I know AOL. Yeah. Like, I didn't really even look into the case, like what it was for. But, like,
neither did I. There were so many cases.
What an insane man. God. Like, it's so funny. But, yeah, let's do Boy and His Dog, man.
Let's do Boy and His Dog. All right, so Boy and His Dog is it was published first as a novella. This one's a really interesting one because it's kind of complicated, its publication history, because it was first published as a novella in 1969. Then the movie came out, and then it was republished, and then kind of there was like a fix-up novel made. So we put like more adventures of Vic and Blood. So Blood is the dog and Vic is the boy. And so it became one thing, but I thought we should just work with the novella and the movie. Yeah. So basically it's about, again, post-apocalyptic, I wouldn't say dystopia, but like just a wasteland where a 15-year-old Vic is wandering around said wasteland with his dog, who is telepathic and speaks to him. And the dog sniffs out and finds women in particular for Vic, so Vic can rape them. And in exchange for that, the dog gets food. And the sort of premise of this is that Vic stumbles upon a woman who is actually from an underground community of bourgeois people, as he
down
says.
Under, they call it.
The down under, yes. And he it ends up being that she has lured him down there. Basically, so the community, which is dying down there because it doesn't have virile men, is going to milk him for his semen so they can like reproduce. There's a lot more to that, but that's sort of the broad strokes of the story. The film is really very, very close to.
I love it. I love the movie. When you first put the movie on, you're kind of like, "What the hell, dude? Like, what is going on?" And then, like, first off, Don Johnson is like the perfect person to play Like it's just like you couldn't pick a better person for that. The way that they have the voiceover for the dog is very good for the budget that they had, because they had no money to make this movie, which is insane because like it's by L.Q. Jones, who was like a Western actor. Was the director.
In heaps of Peckinpah films and stuff, and then was just like, I'm going to direct this.
I didn't know he was, and then I Googled him because he kept saying he was an actor, and I looked. I'm like, oh, I've seen that guy in like a million things. Like, yeah, like he's in the Wild Bunch. I just watched that, and the book is so interesting. Like, again, horny Harlan.
So horny.
So horny. The jerking off movie theater, Pee Wee Herman style jerking movie theater, where they would show you 2 war movies and then like a porn.
Yeah.
It was the docket for the night, and I think like some San Francisco gay clubs used to do stuff like that back in the 80s. I used to hear that. Like they
you want to get people riled up first.
Yeah,
and
like
then,
action, like which some people the war movie might be the porn. Who's to say? Like who's to say? But like that I think that ended up actually becoming like a thing. And but the funny thing is like what the first like really funny scene is like when he's gonna wants to start jerking off in the theater, and then of course the says there's a chick here, dude. Like, there's a girl here, and then immediately he's like, no way, like are you kidding me? And then he's like, well, we should go rape, like and it's just so nonchalant, and it's really funny because when they were making this into a movie, and there's that insane podcast, that's what you and I were joking about, people like warning people about the long podcast. It's just this like Tascam field recorder interview with L.Q. Jones and Harlan Ellison, like hashing out some demons. Like I mean, I don't think anybody really liked Harlan Ellison other than like Gaiman, but even he had his issues with him. But they're like, they didn't have Robin Williams. Those are like his 2 friends.
Well, his wife, who was a saint, who stayed with him for like 30 years. His last wife. He was married 5 times.
House naked one time as a joke. When she was they were gonna have sex, and they were wrestling around. And he threw her outside the house in their neighborhood. Like he stood. Like how did again? You don't believe in God, and that woman exists, dude. Like come on, and like that woman exists for you. So he, there that part is funny because I guess L.Q. Jones sent the final copy, and Harlan Ellison loved it. Right? He was like, "This is really good." He goes, "But it's extremely misogynistic." And I'm like, "So is your book." Like, dude, your book is like is like big Tao, dude. Your book is big, like straight up incel 4chan, like roasty death to roast.
Yeah, like literally, the first plot point is, I need to do some raping, like,
and then barbecuing her at the end for your dog.
Yes,
like it's just like I mean, and like the woman just being scheming the whole time, and like like that which they don't put in the movie. I can see why, but like when he entraps all the people from the down, all the evil men and stuff, like he's like fucking her, and like her legs are open, and they look in to like see her leg, like like this is like. Like, dude, just own up to what you wrote. like it's so that's the frustrating part about Harlan Ellison is like hearing him explain that. I was like, I wish I never heard that. Like
he thinks that the last line, which was added in the film, makes it way more misogynistic, because he was saying in this interview that he sent me to L.Q. Jones that like, I'm more of a misanthrope, you're more of a misogynist. So
Jones like, yeah, correct. Yeah.
Yes. He's like,
and he's like, true. That's why I loved your story. But he makes this caveat, this weird technicality, which like no feminist would ever make this. Like actually, like nobody you're defending would actually agree with you on this. So it's a weird hedge to make. Is that like, oh yeah, Vic doesn't eat any of it. It's for the dog. Vic doesn't eat any of it in the book. Like, but in the movie they ate together, and it's like that's not. I don't think that's what makes the book misogynist.
Yeah, no, it's more the last line, which Blood says. Like, this annoyed Harlan Ellison, and I can kind of see it from a writer's perspective, because the last line that Blood, the dog, says is he says, she may have not had good sense, but she had good taste, which is, a joke about them eating her. And Harlan said that Blood to him in the story is Vic is just this wild, like id-fueled, like child. Like he doesn't know anything, because he lives in a world post society essentially. And Blood is supposed to be the voice of society. Yeah. He taught him everything he knows, taught him how to read and everything like that. And so the idea that Blood would be like one of the guys and like, ooh, yeah, we ate this bitch, that like was really offensive to Harlan. So I kind of do get where he's coming from, but I don't know. That was kind of still funny. And he hates when people find that funny too. Like,
well, and also like if you end it the way that the book ended it, the book is very open ended, like of what happened. Like they don't like say that they ate it. Like they don't explicitly say that they ate her. It was just like this happened, and then they're full now, and now they're going. Yeah. It's like you get the idea that they ate her, right? But like it isn't explicitly said. So I can see that. And then Harlan also said that he made L.Q. Jones take out a lot of Blood's lines that like, so apparently there's stuff we didn't see that Blood was saying, but like, I don't know. It's a low budget, like 70s movie. I mean, like, I don't know. I thought it was really, really honest. I mean, some of the Down Under stuff is a little different than how I remember it. But again, like that
with the weird painted faces, like
so campy and like John Waters and like just it was like really, really weird. But yeah, like and that's fine because even in the book, that's far from like my favorite part of like is just like him going through the Down Under and stuff. But I do love the I really did enjoy the story. It was shocking because it was actually the first thing I had read from him because I was like, oh, Boy and His Dog, and he knew he was doing this with the title. He wanted just a very innocuous kind of title just to be like, a Boy and His Dog. Oh, he was thinking of some like nerd picking it up in the store, like some dork, probably a Christian, like picking it up in the store and epic own on him and making this like because the violence is real. The way he writes the violence is so good and so gristly and just like, oh man, like just like I don't have it in front of me, but the brain matter and which I'm surprised they actually put in the movie is Blood like dragging the body off and stuff and like eating, and stuff like I was like, wow, they actually put that in the movie. I didn't think they would.
And the casualness of it as well. Like it's really kind of, like you said, really gristly, but like just because it's a first person narrator from Vic's perspective, the way he just offhands like talking about these really violent acts is just
also I felt like in the book there was still way more remnants of an old society than in the movie, like because you had the YMCA, the Young Men's Christian Association, and Vic reads it and he's like, what the fuck is that, like, but he can read because Blood taught him how. But like that was maybe my one complaint of the movie. It was like way too Mad Maxy. Like it was like that's I didn't think it was that far gone. And I think it was like having old like Escape from New York style aesthetic would have been like cooler, which maybe you can't do that like because they had like $10 to make a movie.
Maybe
you just out in the desert like somewhere and some ranch L.Q. Jones owned or something. Like I get that, but
it is interesting because it those budgetary constraints have it being in this sort of wasteland that has, I think, influenced, like you mentioned, Mad Max. Like it's that same sort of look that like this film, it wasn't commercially successful. Like it was critically, people found it okay. But it's clearly been quite influential. Like it's very influential in the Fallout video game series as well. The idea of the Down Unders, like being like the vaults and, wanderers around the wasteland. You can get a dog in Fallout too. So
it's really cool. Yeah. It's really cool. I thought it was so well done. I mean, I was not expecting the movie. I was really intrigued because I liked the idea of Don Johnson as Vic. I thought that was really cool. Just the fact that happened. But I was really impressed by both. And the story is just so fun. I mean, it's crude, but it's crude. And the way he writes his characters, they don't know any other way. So like Vic just thinks that's how normal people talk, and like, I love the the funny things where he's like, sometimes you gotta fuck guys, it's not that big of a deal. He's just like, you just do it. Like, he's like, it's not great.
Yeah. Like, it's like that prison logic, right? Well, got to do it somehow. Yeah.
You're like a ship like at sea kind of thing where it's like, oh, this is what's around, like kind of thing. So it's really funny to see the way he writes it is like is a guy who doesn't know anything other than post-apocalyptic. Because sometimes you'll with some dystopian things that might fail to me or tropes where it's like the character's way too smart for the dystopia.
Yeah.
And the reason that the dog is smart is because they actually crossbred dolphin DNA or like put dolphin DNA, and dolphins are extremely smart. So dogs for wartime for them to be really, which was actually, I think a German experiment they tried to do with dachshunds, I believe. I don't know if it was, they did it with dolphins, but like they tried to like make like super dachshunds that could like burrow under, like holes and like do like really experiment with dogs. So I wonder if that's what that's from, but it had like a kind of a Crichtonian kind of, like weird science element of it, of like, we actually made like the dogs the smartest people because we bred them with dolphins. And that is a classic, like, atheist, bad view of humanity, of like, actually humans are so stupid. We just bred two animals together and it's smarter than any human, you know, just kind of, that kind of thing. But Ellison is just so talented and so good that you're not even thinking of that in the moment. It's just, that's in like a retrospect thing. I love the story. I think it's great. Have you read the full,
no, I haven't. I think I will like get it eventually.
I'd like to give it a go.
Apparently, there's like a full publication like book that has this. It has another story with them. It has one from a girl's point of view as well. Like Vic, wow. So Vic is presumed dead, isn't actually. And then, you know, Blood pairs up with a girl wandering around the wasteland.
Oh, cool.
So it's like, it's his answer to the misogyny charge, I guess.
And he was so proto-woke, man. Like
his apology to her.
Yeah, it's funny. It's charming during that time, you know, it's charming because you didn't have to. And he was scared of feminism. Like he had said, like, he's like, I had people breathing down my neck. Like I knew that like the glorious, you know, Steinem wave, like what was that second wave? Like that wave of feminism was like coming. He's like, I was warning LQ, like, you can't do this and stuff. So it was almost like, hey, this is cool, but like, don't do it, you know, kind of like more so fearful of the rules that in which he, with his politics, has to support. You know, he has no choice. So
it's funny though, because he's a good riffer. Like he's basically, he has a comedian soul because he's like always riffing in Q&As and stuff. He'll do like funny accents, like vaguely racist, sexist jokes, like all the time. Like, so one. What's that?
He has a great Mexican accent. I've put it in the documentary. He does like really funny one. Like it's old school. Libs used to do that all the time. Like, like Howard Stern stuff. Yeah.
Definitely one of my favorite novellas, I guess, and probably my favorite post-apocalyptic story. Like it's pretty much sets the standard for me in terms of those sorts of tropes and settings.
God, it's good. Yeah. Anybody who hasn't read any of these, man, you can get them done in like a day or two. Like if you just sit with them, it's nothing. Like just find them and read them. Like it was a joy, truly. Like, to read all of these things. The Michael Hansen radio dramas, they do a really good job with it too. The Repent Harlequin one's really good. It actually,
all right. Should I'll link those as well, maybe.
So I didn't know until today. Cause you know, what's funny is I was in my Finder, like my Apple Finder, like trying to like find the PDF, and I was like, oh shit, there's a Mind Web story. So I just put them both on simultaneously. I was kind of and following along. So like those are really cool. Like I've been trying to get a lot of people to listen to those because I think Internet Archive, something's about to happen to that. So let's get in.
Yeah, I heard something about that too.
I don't know. They're still up there. I downloaded them all, but there's Internet Archive has everything, like all good stuff on there. So
once again, the monastery, get those books, store them.
No, I know it, man. Oh man, lovely.
All right. So anything else to say on Harlan Ellison or this story?
You know, I don't think so. You know, like I said, I think the funniest thing is just knowing the type of guy that he is. His books are very much like him, but also so different because they're so deep, and he comes off as a guy who's scared to feel any sort of like emotion other than anger. But then you read his books and it's like there's still the angers in there, but there's a lot. There's deflective humor. There's but then like, you know, you like Paingod is something where if you really wanted to like get into the depths of Harlan Ellison, I would recommend Paingod to everybody. Just to really get in there and be like, wow, this guy's actually, there's something to him, you know?
Yeah. It's very rare to find a soulful atheist, which I think he is in his writing.
100%, dude. 100%. And man, who knows, you know, in your dying days, who knows? Who knows what happened? That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, maybe Paingod came down and
Dude, I'm telling you, like, cause like you don't know, like I know he had a stroke and then he was around for a little bit and then he passed. So you have that near death experience like that. Perhaps maybe he'd never want to admit it to anybody. Perhaps maybe he, cause I think the door was more open than we think.
Yeah. All right, Glenn, thanks very much for joining me. This has been a blast. And I will link to your podcast, Substack, everything. Go and check it out. Like I said, it's one of my favorite podcasts. Must listen. I press play as soon as it's downloaded. So yeah,
Great.
Thanks a lot.
Oh, yeah, pleasure's all mine. And I'm going to get you on Gain and Fiction. I think we're going to, I've got the book saved that you just recommended. I need to replace one of my books. So I want to do it. I want to do it season 1. I want to get on. It'll be fun. So, absolutely. Very fun. Read books, guys. Read books. Talk about them. Read books.
Read fiction.
Fiction's very important. There's going to be a Gain and nonfiction miniseries, but it's all going to be books that everyone thinks are fake, is fake, like a lot of woo-woo stuff. That's
yes, looking forward to that.
That's like a caveat that we're going to do in between seasons is You Are the Placebo, all these like woo-woo stuff. And I'm like, but that's nonfiction to me. So
yes. Graham Hancock, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All that type of stuff, like stuff that people are not willing to believe yet, because that's what my show does. Is we try to make a fun time, but still show you new things that you thought were off limits. So, anyways, yeah. Thank you so much. I'll come on for anything. Anytime you want to do some short stuff that I can get through quick, just hit me up. I'm down to read anything. You definitely know your stuff. So you knew me. I didn't know I needed to read this, but you knew that I did. So that was the best.
Synchronicities. I think yes. It wasn't really me. It was like,
yeah, true. No, take credit for you. There was nothing at play. It's all you. It's all
me. It's all me.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah. Later.